Today, we take a look at one of the most unconventional build ideas that I have ever had. We are talking, of course, about using the unique, the Rite of Freesia. We're going to go over what it is, how it works, why it could be good, and then we're going to go over what people's attempts already have told us about it. So just to get started, the Rite of Freesia, plain and simple, this is from PoEDB, has a very interesting mod that no other unique item in the game has, and that is increases and reductions to light radius also apply to damage. Meaning, instead of scaling damage, you can scan light radius. But increases and reductions to light radius also apply to area of effect at 50% of their value. Deals no chaos damage, so the build can't be a chaos damage build. But we're going to go over how light radius works just so we fully understand the mechanics we're getting into, and then we're going to talk about the uniques that are here, and then we're going to try and craft a build around this unique and see if we can't make it work. So on top of the Rite of Freesia, obviously being the core piece of this build, we have actually quite a few uniques here that do. But first, let's learn about light radius. Light radius is a stat which affects the maximum radius you can see clearly in low light level areas. Your light radius is further reduced by your current percentage of maximum life. This makes it very difficult to see in dark areas when on low life. The Arcane Vision passive and Incandescent Heart changes your light radius to be based off your proportion of energy shield instead of life, aiding visibility for low life builds. So it's a pretty simple, light radius is a pretty simple mechanic, which I like because there's so many mechanics in Path of Exile that are just super complicated and you go to make a build around them and then all of a sudden they're just not good anymore. So on top of this, we have a list of all of the uniques that can affect light radius. Obviously, we're probably not going to look at these minus 40. But as far as positive, we know that currently, I believe the record for largest light radius was done by, I just saw the video too. I want to say it was in period. 314, it was in period. 314% light radius. Not using the Rite of Freesia, he did have a synthesized helmet, so I will note that. So we might not be able to hit that 314%. I believe the biggest functional build somebody's made was 260%, but that's 260%, sorry. Increase damage, as well as at 50% of its value, which makes it 130% increased area of effect. That's a lot of area effect. That's doubling your area effect. Could be cool with something like Cyclone. We'll get into those ideas after. So outside of the Rite of Freesia, we also have the Pyre Sapphire Ring, Cold Res, Fire Res, Burning Damage, interesting. Cold damage converted to fire. Elemental conversion could be a good idea. 10% increased light radius, 10% per ring, obviously would give us 20. We have the Solaris Lorica Copper Plate. This is a body armor, right? I think we're going to skip over the 40%. Those are just going to be too big to get over unless we're getting them on jewels. Jewels, you can roll up to 6% light radius on each. I don't know how many jewel sockets we'll be able to afford to take, because obviously we're going to have to scale some other kind of, damage type as well, not just light radius. Xandith's Cassock. I thought it was Xandith's Cloak, or maybe this is just a different one. Similar art. Lightning damage to attacks, increased energy shield, that could be awesome. 40 to 50% Chaos Rose would be wasted if we go CI. 25% increased light radius, 100% chance to create consecrated ground when you block. Now that, with the gifts from above ring and then get block capped, would give us a huge advantage. Consecrated ground has a radius of 18 and regenerates 6 life per second. Gifts from above, is this still good? Level 10 consecrate when you deal a critical strike. Okay, yeah, these are plus 30% crit chance, 35% crit chance, so it would be so easy to get crit capped with 2 of these. And then you're dealing 100% increased damage on consecrated ground and constantly dealing consecrated ground. Add to that the fact that we are also going to have, some very large AoE with this helmet, and I think that could be a really good way to go. Nycta's Lantern, we have increased fizz damage, adds fire damage, 50% increased light radius, and Battle Mage, gain added spell damage equal to the damage of your main hand weapon. This as an offhand, right? And that also gives us the fire damage. And using that fire to cold unique, if we still have it. Oh, we didn't even look see flasks on the other list. I gotta stop clicking these. And then we have the notable light of divinity, which we will definitely be taking. Which is, let's look at this: 20% increased spell damage, increased crit strike damage for spells, and 10% increased light damage. This is a really good node for us.
So it would be probably good to know where on the tree that is.
Oh no, it's on the
Or is
left
it
side of the
left?
tree. Left side of the tree. What starting point is that? That's where you usually start. Like
That's
mid.
literally right on the Templar. Yeah.
So that's the Templar.
Alright, so for weapons, we are very limited. Nycta's Lantern is insane.
Yeah, I really
the
like the Nycta's Lantern, but the Battle Mage, we lose value on that having 2 of those, right?
Yeah, so you wouldn't have 2. You'd never... I don't think this would be a dual-wielding build. So what you would be probably doing is some kind of cast-on crit like Firestorm. Firestorm is an insane skill. It's like the meteors that come from the sky.
Okay.
And you'd scale your crit with that... The nearby enemies are blinded and increase critical strike chance against blinded enemies.
That's the wand.
Is it?
Yeah. Increased critical strike chance against blinded enemies, that's a wand, so we can't use a wand and a scepter though. We continued theory crafting and finally landed on a cast-on crit Ice Nova conversion build. We then spent about an hour building a POV and purchasing the necessary items. The initial budget was 10 divine. Of course, we made changes as we went, but this was our first few attempts. Doesn't feel that good. Interesting. Kind of slow. But if this build can work, I don't think it's gonna matter. The damage doesn't feel bad. Yeah, damage not bad. Needs more crit. Needs more speed. Needs actions. Oh, where's our... I'm still throwing. The second I said that it feels slow, I should have realized our Greater Heartbeat of Time was not up. I do think the cast-on crit Ice Nova fire conversion is... I mean, that's cool. It's basically going to be like Righteous Fire when we get it to work right, but whether or not we're going to be able to get it to work right with the light scaling, it's a cool idea. It's a cool idea, but will it work? I mean, everybody says it's not viable, but I think it's just because as its own build, it's not viable, but I think as a way to scale extra damage, it's really cool. But the changes we made to the build, we are now, instead of coming out of the right side to fulfill our dex requirement, we're taking a bunch of gems like this one. No, not like that one. Like this one. That have strength and dex on them to help us out with our attribute requirements. We're coming down here. We're taking some more attack speed. One thing I do have to do is I still have to anoint Lust for Carnage down here, which is a teal, opalescent, and golden oil. I will remember that for when we're in there. Taking a bunch of reduced mana cost, taking Glancing Blows, Divine Judgment, Arcane Capacitor. These are just for sustain, and then this is also for resist as well as 50% increased LA damage. The staff crit nodes, and then we're taking a large cluster jewel up here with Burning Bright, which is 25% increased burning damage and 8% increased AoE, because, I mean, it's burning after the cold, so that would have been nice to have cold, but this cluster jewel is surprisingly hard to find. And then Prismatic Heart, of course. And then we're just using 2 mediums in there that are Quick Getaway and Basics of Pain on both sides. I copied and pasted here, but they are different jewels. And this is 12% increased fire damage and 5 dex per small node. Even though we're only taking the 1, it does actually help us out. It almost makes it worth pathing out over to here to get some more damage. However, we're not going to. We're also taking the Power Charge cluster because we are generating a Power Charge with a 10% chance on critical strike thanks to our Ascendancy here. With the flat crit also helps us out, and damage from your critical strikes cannot be reflected, so we are reflect immune. We're also gaining elusive, not that that matters as much. And then come down the right side of the tree, we're just taking some stuff to hit our accuracy cap, and then a little more max life, plus 1 power charges, and a jewel socket. Come down here, we're also fulfilling our dex requirement here. This build, it's very hard to get dex on, especially since you're so limited in the items you can use, since we are stacking Light Radius. If I wasn't stacking Light Radius, I'd probably just go High Race Truth, level 30 Precision, which would also help our crit chance out. Probably allow us to save a couple of nodes, but Light Radius it is. We also have a decent chunk of rarity on this. And then we're just coming down here for this for our Watcher's Eye, which is just plain old 15% attack speed. That's just to help us hit our 7 attacks per second cap. On the nerd, we're doing math today. Brains. Yeah, the AoE, I will say, scaling light radius, the AoE is incredible. As you can see, we can clear T12 with, like, no issue, but I'll show you guys what happens on the boss. We just severely lack single target. There's one. You see what I mean? Okay, bye now. Alright, we'll see you later. This is a T16, guys. I mean, we'll have to see against the boss. I think we're not doing too bad, though. The mark definitely helps. Could use a little more damage. Could use some more levels. We got a rogue Exile here that's giving us the work. Oh, that was the boss? That was the boss? Well, we were able to make it all the way down to the boss and kill the boss with one portal, so I'm gonna count that as a dub. Which means technically this challenge is over. However, I would like to continue this on Friday and pick it up where it left off. Like, wow. Currently, we're at 11 div into the build. We did manage to snag a 14 div cluster jewel for 5 div. Other than that, our Watcher's Eye was 2 div. We spent a couple of div on our body armor, a couple of div on our weapon. We're at 11 div total. It's probably worth 20. Just because, again, we got a really... I don't know how accurate that 14 div price was, but the only other one up was 14 div in standard. So these are pretty rare from what I can tell. Either that or a lot of people are just using them and they're not actually worth that much, but I only paid 5 for mine. I kind of want to just sink a couple more div into it and see if we can really push it to the point of can it boss? But I wasn't even expecting... I was never expecting it to hit red maps, let alone be able to clear a T16, which of course we died when we had that 5 div trade pop up because I had to stop and invite that guy. And then we died one more time when it's my fault. It's not the build's fault is what I'm trying to get at. I tried to hit the Vol Ice Nova when we didn't have a Vol Ice Nova, but it T16s for 11 div. I don't know if we can call it a 10 div build. Maybe for 11 div, it T16s. The final version of our build was closer to our original idea, utilizing Chaos Inoculation, Aegis Aurora, and Nycta's Lantern instead of a staff. We lost a little bit of damage, but if we get +1 to power charges on that Frisia's Reef, this would be more damage. It's just that guy didn't want to sell us his stuff. But the build does what we wanted it to do. It T16s. Now, granted, in this version, this iteration of it was an extra 5 div. If you wanted to build this build from scratch, having learned everything that I spent money to learn, realistically speaking, you could probably do it for about... I don't know, because our Aegis Aurora is kind of unnecessarily large. I think you could probably do it for about 15 div. We spent 15 building it, and then another 5 changing it. We also got some really good deals, though. There was that other... Somebody commented on the first stream, and they tagged a light radius build that an old player had made that was cast on crit as well. However, theirs was absolutely crazy. Theirs was insanity. That's probably maybe like a couple hundred div. But if you wanted to sink some time into this, even as a budget build, you can get it to T16 and farm currency and stuff like that, and then build it as you go. So I think I would play this. I think I would have fun. I would play this build. It's definitely a really cool build to have. Maybe I'll play around with it more and we'll revisit this at a later time, but I'm going to call this as like case closed. It is confirmed. You can still use Light Radius. It is a viable build. And it's definitely a lot of fun as well. It's just depending on the skill you go with. Maybe you could do non-cast on crit and end up with a, you know, with a better thing than ours is, but we knew we wanted to do spell damage for the Battle Mage on the Nyctas. We knew we wanted to use the Cold Conversion Ring, 100% conversion, and then we have the increased critical strike rings. However, if you didn't want to convert, you could scale just your cold damage and then do it that way, and you wouldn't be losing too much. If anything, you might actually gain some free points and stuff to use for the crit here instead, or use 2 Nycta's Lanterns for more attack speed, so you don't have to make any investment into attack speed like we did, or get a Watcher's Eye that you can. I mean, maybe we'll play around with this build again in the future, but for now, don't forget to leave a like, and thanks for watching.